Today, we're going to discuss multitasking with AI agents. We've been using AI agents for a while now, and question always comes up: when do you let agents run amok, work on multiple things at a time, and when do you need to focus and have them work on a single thing? So obviously, AI agents are changing the way we work, right? They can handle coding, debugging, research tasks, etc. But because we can run AI agents in parallel, does that mean we should, right? So I'm a firm believer that humans cannot multitask. I read a lot of popular psychology books, and pretty much all of them said that humans cannot multitask, right? Studies show that when humans do tasks in series, do one, then do the other one, they finish faster and with higher quality than if they were like switching between these two tasks. But that's not the whole story, right? Obviously, we see people multitask all the time. For example, right, when driving a car and talking on the phone with a headset, of course, we're clearly multitasking. Would our driving and conversational quality be better if, say, we drove first and then talked on the phone? Probably, maybe, but the difference, depending on the person, might not be that big. Driving is habitual for many people, so that we can pair it with another cognitive task without dramatically dropping performance. So what about throwing AI agents in the mix, right? It's Wednesday morning of your workday. You told your AI agent to do a job. You hope that it only takes a minute, but it may take 15 minutes. So what do you do then? So let's talk about task switching some more. Our research suggests that switching between tasks can cost up to 40% of someone's productive time. That is huge, right? University of Michigan study found it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to a task after an interruption. So these mental blocks from shifting between tasks can actually cost a significant amount of time. So if your AI agent is running, you've got like spare mental capacity. Can you do something else while waiting to check the results? If you switch to another task, such as looking at another bug or a feature, or maybe looking, on Facebook or whatever, but definitely don't do that. So if you switch, you will spend time ramping up on that second task, and then even more time switching back to the first. And yes, people do it all the time. But if you do it, you will not be fully engaged in either your main or your second task. You're more likely to miss something important, like the agent using the wrong method, or perhaps skipping a critical feature requirement. And yes, we have seen that happen, and that's partly the inspiration for this video, right? And when that happens, you're wondering, would it have been better if I was more engaged with the agent? All right, so when not to switch tasks, right? So if you're working on some significant important feature bug, you need your full mental capacity in the context of that task to deliver the best software, right? So instead of switching, right, what can you do, right? Your agent is running, what do you do? All right, here's some options. One, you can plan ahead, right? Think, after the agent completes a job, what will you do? Will you check the results and then start the next phase? Well, is the next phase directly related to the current one, or can it be run in parallel? Right? Can you just spin up a parallel environment and have the agent another agent start on the next phase, right? You will effectively have two agents doing the work on parallel tasks within the same bigger feature. If waiting for the agent is your bottleneck, right, you can either parallelize the jobs, like I mentioned, or ensure the agent is always working on something useful. All right, you want to keep the agent busy. That means if your next thing to do after the agent does is review its work, maybe you can review its work while telling the agent to work on the next part, right? So you kind of have to think about structuring your work to make sure you don't have a bottleneck. Okay, so first it's planning. Secondly, make sure the agent is actually efficient, right? You can watch the agent's progress and make sure it's actually doing efficient work. It's not doing any unnecessary work. For example, is it trying to find information that you already know? Well, you can just stop it and provide it the answer. What if it's looking for information? You don't know it, but maybe you can find it faster than the agent. For example, we've been mostly using Claude Code, and as of August 2025, Claude Code does not create a vector database of your code base. What does that mean? It means if you ask it questions about the code base, for example, asking where a specific feature is tested, it's going to go and do like a grep search like a human would. Other tools, such as Cursor, do a semantic index of the code base so they can actually find the answer faster. So if you're using Claude Code to do the coding, it's looking for something. You have maybe a free instance of Claude, free instance of Cursor open. You go in there and ask it. It gives you the answer. Stop Claude, give it the answer from Cursor, and keep going, right? You can use tricks like that. Next, agents can go off track, right? They use brute force approaches, right? They're gonna repeatedly try a solution until something works, even if this final, working solution is not optimal. So if you're monitoring progress, you can see if the agent is going off track. If it's like trying to code its own library, for example, you can be like, no, this is the way it does. Like, figure out how to do it this way. Okay, so we talked about planning ahead, making sure agent is efficient. Let's talk about manual QA, right? Once the feature that the agent is coding is ready for manual testing, are you ready? Is your environment ready? Maybe you need to populate some data in database. Maybe you need to deploy some other services. Maybe you need to sign up with some cloud accounts. Prepare these ahead of time and make sure you're ready to go to manually QA the feature. And fourth, CI and code review issues, right? If you're working on big tasks, you're probably gonna, you're gonna work in steps. Your agent's gonna do some work. What you wanna do is you wanna commit that code. If you commit that code, that means you can run your CI. That means your CI is running, it's running tests. Maybe some of those other tests fail, right? And this is a nice parallel task to do because it's still in the same context, right? This feature has caused these other tests to fail, right? So you're not switching context. Another thing you can do is code review, right? You can ask another AI agent. For example, we are using CodeRabbit AI to do code reviews, right? So you can, the agent coded it up, you check in the changes, you manually review them, then you ask CodeRabbit AI to also review them. So you can have your agent coding stuff and another agent reviewing the code. Okay, so when can you switch tasks, right? When can you go hog wild and spin off a bunch of agents doing your work? Well, generally, task switching is fine for kind of small, low-risk work, such as, fixing a single failing unit test, resolving a simple bug where the fix is straightforward, addressing some code review comments, right? Some minor refactoring, adding logging statements, basically this kind of maintenance work that's closer to busy work. Those are great things to multitask. So these tasks require little mental setup, right? So the switching cost is minimal. When you're jumping around from task to task, you don't need to remember a whole bunch of stuff about them, right? This keeps your switching costs minimal. And because these tasks are small, any quality issues are easier to spot. We recommend actually categorizing tasks, kind of thinking about before you start a task, think about it like, is this going to be a single task or can I multitask this, right? So you kind of want to have like your focus time where you're working on one thing and then your kind of busy work time where you're working on a bunch of things. Let me show a table I made. Uh, let's look at this table. So yeah, single task, deep focus, complex feature, production bug fixes, architectural decision, performance optimization. Those are all good single task mode tasks. You want to avoid context switching. You could use more than one agent in this case, as long as those agents are still working on kind of the same big overarching task. Recommend to monitor it. Yeah, mission critical quality work. So there you go. Single task versus multitask. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.